anytime I have a problem, I kind of look at it and say, is there a process, is there a set of steps that I think when I do the problem? And then I set up a template that does those steps. And when I'm doing something using the square root property, I put the variable squared or the variable expression squared on the left, constant on the right. So I said to kick the constant to the other side, make sure the squared thing is by himself. It's like making the radical by itself. How did you undo a radical? You had to square him, but you had to make sure he was alone first. How do you undo a square? You're going to square root him, but you have to make sure he's alone first. Otherwise, it causes you problems. Take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. And then simplify the radical if there is one involved. So, step 1. Variable squared or variable expression squared on the left, constant on the right. Here's the squared thing. He's got an 8 with it. That means the first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 8 to get the squared thing by itself. Now, if you notice, 5 is not a perfect square, which means if I were to move it to the other side, it would be x squared minus 5. And x squared minus 5 is not the difference of squares. Here, Paul. Yep, sorry. Now what do you do? Well, you're going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. Square root of x squared is x, so I don't have to worry about absolute values. And plus or minus the square root of 5. And can square root of 5 be simplified? No. So I'm done. That's the process. That's what we're going to do today. Step 1, well, here's the variable squared. He has to be by himself. So the first thing I have to do is subtract 49 from both sides. So that 4x squared equals negative 49. Then I divide both sides by 4 to get rid of the 4 so that I finally get x squared alone. Once the squared thing is by himself, I take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. So that x squared is plus or minus property of radicals, square root of negative 49, square root of 4. And that should be x, not x squared. New white tape, white tape. Perfect. Can't tell. Now I simplify the radical. The square root of 4 is 2. What's the square root of negative 49? Negative 49. It's an imaginary number thing. Yes. Woohoo! And it is 7i. And don't forget the plus or minus. Now remember, square root of negative 49 is the square root of 49 times negative 1, which is the square root of 49 times the square root of negative 1, which is 7i. That's where it comes from.